Alright, so in this video we're going to look at a time lapse of building a custom countdown timer in OBS. So what's cool about this is that I use the OBS browser source, and with just a bit of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you could build any number of cool overlay graphics. And these are the same languages that you'd use when building web pages. So this countdown timer features a custom font from Google Fonts. You're going to see me use that. I'm adding the browser source here. And I'm going to point it at a local file, and in my local file I'm just writing a quick hello world HTML page, and I'm centering that there just to get my bearings. I'm going to go choose a custom font from Google, and I want to look at the numbers because again I'm building a countdown timer, so I'm previewing through a bunch of really nice thick fonts. And Google Fonts, you select the code right out of the website, paste it into your HTML file, and boom, you're using the Google font. This countdown timer that I'm building is by default, it's going to count down to the top of the next hour. So this is really handy for most events because I can kick off my stream 5 or 10 minutes early and then switch to this scene, and it just starts counting down to the top of the next hour. So right here what I'm doing is I'm actually opening my HTML file in a browser because it's a lot easier to debug issues with your code, with your JavaScript code, with your CSS, using the browser directly. So you open those browser developer tools, you start poking around the source code and the elements, the CSS, and you can debug your code. So I've started with just basically displaying a clock. It displays the current time. I'm using the new date object in JavaScript, and that's my clock, but a clock isn't my goal. My goal is a countdown timer. So I'm going to define a target time that I want to count down to. My goal is going to be to count down to the top of the next hour. If you don't want to use the top of the next hour, you can type in a specific date and time. You just hard code that date and time in there, and then it counts down to that date and time. Another feature of this countdown timer is when it gets down to 0, it just sticks there. So you have a couple seconds to switch away from this scene. It doesn't do anything weird. It doesn't get negative or anything like that. And now I am creating the logic that counts down the difference in hours, minutes, and seconds between the target time and the current time. And this is about the first time it starts actually being a countdown timer. But you'll notice that as the seconds change, it's jittery because, again, it's not a monospaced font, and I have a centered layout, so the width of my display is actually changing every second. So what I want to do is create separate sections, separate spans in HTML, for each of the hour section, the minute section, and the second section. Alright, so here we are counting down reliably to a given date that I have specified. Again, still jittering around. And here I am writing the code that's going to create a new span that has a specific fixed width. And that's going to keep those colons from jittering around in the display. I'm Googling some CSS letter spacing, but I don't think there's a way to make the font be monospaced. So instead, I'll just give a fixed width to those sections. And you see the seconds are bouncing around to the right. We actually want to left align the seconds, we want to right align the hours, and center align the minutes. And that'll give us a layout that's nice and stable while it counts down. There we go. That's a much nicer layout that's not bouncing all over the place. Hours are right aligned, seconds are left aligned. But there's one more problem. So it turns out that the 00 is the widest in this and most fonts. At this point, I am saying if hours are 0 or less, I just don't display them. So I don't display 0 colon if we're less than an hour to the target time. I only display minutes and seconds. Then to get it all to center correctly, we have to make that minute width a little more narrow when it's less than 10 minutes. Alright, there we go. A nicely centered, only single-digit minute, 2-digit second. Now, here I watch a real clock to see that at 6 p.m. indeed we hit 0. Yeah, and it's working as expected, and it sticks at 0. Now, I'm going to talk for a second about the background. I'm just using this static image of an ocean in the background. You could put anything you want behind it. You could put a video, maybe some kind of announcements or highlights reel. You can put some music during that initial delay when you'll be starting. if you change the font, go pick your own font on fonts.google.com, you will have to adjust the widths here in the span section and the span section half. Alright, now I'm just looking how that looks, refreshing it back in OBS, how it looks over that background. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you can tweak it to your liking. Again, find out more details on our blog, and thanks for watching.